Clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And good evening. Welcome on this Wednesday night, April 8th, 2026. The 8th. Something's coming up in a couple of days. 8, 9, 10, 11. Wait a minute. The 11th is coming up. When is the 11th? Saturday. Somebody's got a birthday coming up on the 11th. Who would that be? Logan. Logan has a birthday coming up on the 11th. Well, there you go. I think we have to have a little birthday party, Logan. Let's see. Logan, did you see? I've got on David Pyne tonight because David wants to talk a little bit about this 10-point peace deal. Is it really the 10 points? Because the White House today is trying to say, well, you guys are putting out a 10-point peace plan, and this is not necessarily the peace plan. We got one, we threw it in the trash, and then we got another one. Okay, which peace plan is it then? Like I said in my monologue tonight in the World Report, if this is not the peace plan, the 10 points that are being pushed by all these different outlets, including what sounds to be some pretty credible sources, then why don't you just release the 10 points on the White House letterhead? Why don't you do that? Why have you not done that now? Because it is the 10-point plan, and it's not going well for you. Even the MAGA people that really support President Trump are like, what? Now, I understand the 10-point peace plan is just to get a ceasefire, and then they'll go on negotiating. But I don't understand why they're acting like we're all reading something that isn't even real. Well, then release the 10 points. But you haven't, which tells me we're pretty well on target. And I think tonight we're going to explain. Did I say explain like Ricky Ricardo? Tonight we're going to explain why we believe those are the 10-point plan points. All right, now, we're also going to have on, of course, Annie Cyrus, so we can just make some of you angry, because apparently some of you get really upset when she comes on, but she gets it right a lot of the times. She sure does. And I don't really know all we're going to talk about tonight, because as you know, this show is very fluid. We don't plan what we're going to say, and we're always looking and searching for what's coming out and breaking news and new information. But we're going to talk about a lot of stuff with David and with Annie to try to get an understanding of what's going on. What's the goal? What's the objective here? A lot of questions that we're asking. We're making some statements. We're proposing some theories. But shouldn't we all be asking questions instead of just blindly believing what someone says, regardless of who they are? Even if it's Donald Trump, and even if you voted for him, and even if you really like him. Shouldn't you still question him? He's still just a man, and he is a politician now. Why would we not continue to question? And I'm going to say it. I've said it, and I'm going to say it again. Do you want to go down the same road as George W. Bush took us? You want to go down the same road? No. I'm not saying President Trump is George W. Bush or like George W. Bush, but administrations are administrations, Republicans, Democrats, and you got to question what they're saying. That's our job, right? To question, to try to put together the big picture. And that's what we're going to do tonight. So I don't really know in totality what we're going to talk about tonight because of the fact we don't plan the show. And that we ask a lot of questions and we go looking for stuff. So we'll do the best we can. Logan, do we have, before we go to everybody, do we have the video of that near train crash? I think I have the video of the near train crash. Yeah, guys, this just happened. This just happened in Florida, right, Logan? This is a train that apparently went around the guardrails. It went down. And right now, it is stopped on the railroad track with 29 students on board. What did I say? It's the bus, excuse me. The bus is still on the track. And you're going to see it move forward. But it, by inches, missed being completely destroyed. I mean, I guess you kiss your kids every day and hug them because you never know what somebody's going to do or could do. I mean, I cannot believe how livid the parents must be, but also so thankful to the Lord for protecting these poor little children. Here we go. Look at that. Now, I'm going to mute it because I think one of the kids starts cursing. Well, now that's inside the bus. So, yep, one of the kids starts cursing, so I just muted that. But these kids are like, oh my, and you can hear them crying. Some of them are crying. Look how close that was. One girl says, I couldn't get my seatbelt off. Did you guys know that there was seatbelts on buses? They didn't have those when I was growing up. Look at that. So close. Well, I'm thankful they're okay. And that's the bus driver? I think I have a article, right, Logan? Let me go into my email and grab it. I said, Logan, go verify this, if you can, please. Find me an article verifying when this happens. And there it is. Look at this. Como News. Florida school bus crash. Florida school bus driver accused of 29 felony neglect charges after train crash. Well, was it a train crash? I think it hit a little bit of the back end, didn't it, Logan? Just a touch. School teacher in Florida now faces 29, what's going on with my computer? Charges of child neglect following a train collision that nearly endangered the lives of 29 children and an adult. The Sumter County Sheriff's Office announced on Monday that she's been accused of 29 felony counts of child neglect. The incident occurred at the intersection of East Central Avenue and North Market Street on April 2nd in Bushnell, prompting a response from law enforcement. Wow. The bus driver made poor decisions that could have resulted in the death of 29 children and one adult, said the sheriff. He emphasized that thoroughness of the investigation carried out by his team, thanking Deputy Hanson and Deputy Sorrell for their diligent work. He also expressed gratitude towards the school board for their cooperation and for providing access to video footage that aided in the investigation. Quote, trains don't sneak up on people. It was poor judgment that placed children at risk, end quote. Yeah. Did she go around a barrier, Logan? Was there not a barrier? Well, why on earth would she stop on the track? No, it doesn't look like there's a barrier, does there? I do know there aren't buses that are supposed to stop and look both ways before they cross. They don't wait until they've gone over and then stop. I don't know what that was about, how it happened. But like the sheriff said, train tracks don't sneak up on you. Wow, I saw that today, and it scared me for those kids. And at the same time, scared me for the parents, because I know even though the parents are so thankful their kids are safe, you know that for a lot of them that they cried because they realized how close their kids could have been to not being alive. Let's see. What else do we got, Logan? We have so many windows. I have so many windows open tonight. I want to get to, if time allows, but I don't think it's going to. I will address it eventually. The guest that Tucker Carlson had on talking about Christianity and capitalism don't mix, that Christians should stay far away, and Christianity should stay away from the free market system or capitalism. That is so wrong. That what was going on with the church in Acts 2 was socialism. Wrong. I deal with that in my book from several years ago, Twisted Scripture, Twisted Theology. I probably will run out of time tonight to cover it. So if so, then I'll endeavor to cover it either for radio tomorrow at 1 o'clock or TV tomorrow night. But I will get to it. I come to the desk a lot of times with a lot of stuff, and we don't get to cover some of it because we just there isn't enough hours in the broadcast day to do it. But it doesn't mean I won't get there. I will. All right. Let's get going here with David Pyne and Annie Cyrus. Going to be a lot of clips, a lot of news stories to show tonight. Tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, True Social, get everybody here. Remember, we need your support. WorldviewFoundation.com. We are a listener-supported network. There's also great products here that I think support your health and us at the same time, like Numi. swishforlife.com. That's Numi's got glutathione in it to detox your cells. The dollyfood.shop. She loves that Happy How food. Dolly loves it. Pearl loves it. We have the Worldview Healthcare for your antibiotics. Become your own urgent care, really. You can get your gold, your information on gold and putting gold in your IRA or taking physical custody at worldviewgold.com. We have Worldview Talk, your satellite phones, your solar generators, your bulletproof backpacks, and so much more. Water filters, worldviewwater.net. Gatatana, we have that. That's the phytoplankton I take every day. I have it at dinner. Dolly gets to have a scoop on her food every morning. The Bella Grace Elixir, I take that every day. All of these great products, many of them have clinical trials. They're available at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. You'll find their links, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Let's get going. Joining me now is David Pyne. We like to try to bring a lot of people on, a lot of different voices. We can hear different perspectives. We can agree. We can disagree. We can debate it. You guys can debate it in the feedback. That is what talk radio and talk television is about. We don't always have to agree. I love that line by Reagan. Someone that agrees with us 80% of the time is not a 20% enemy. So we like to bring people on all across the board as much as we can with a lot of different opinions and ideas to get an analysis of what they believe compared to what we believe and see where maybe they have some truth in what part of what they're saying. We got the accurate position on some of what we're saying. It's great to hear from a variety of voices. Now, this has been a very interesting day, obviously, with radio and TV that went for an hour and a half today. My show is supposed to be an hour, went for an hour and a half, with Aaron Levarco out of Israel and Annie Cyrus jumping in. And now we've got reports from J.D. Vance after we were lectured, if you will, the press was lectured by Caroline Levitt. And I'll play that clip. Maybe I should play that clip first, Logan. Maybe I should play her clip first. Let me go to her clip because she really wanted to lecture the press, and I wasn't having any of that on radio today. Let's see. Here we go. Here's what Caroline Levitt had to say. Watch and listen.
The valiant efforts of all of our incredible service members created maximum leverage for the President of the United States, allowing he and his leadership team to engage in tough negotiations over the past couple of weeks that have now created an opening for a diplomatic solution in long-term peace in the Middle East. The President's maximum pressure and the leverage created by the success of Operation Epic Fury led to the Iranian regime asking for and ultimately agreeing to a ceasefire proposal with the United States. Iran could no longer tolerate being bombed or taking the gamble of what was to come following President Trump's 8 p.m. deadline last night. Iran has agreed to open the Strait of Hormuz, and as the president said, we have received a proposal from the Iranians that has been determined to be a workable basis on which to negotiate. I've seen a lot of inaccurate coverage today from the media about these negotiations and these plans already. So let me be clear and correct the record. The Iranians originally put forward a 10-point plan that was fundamentally unserious, unacceptable, and completely discarded. It was literally thrown in the garbage by President Trump and his negotiating team. Many outlets in this room have falsely reported on that plan as being acceptable to the United States, and that is false. With the president's deadline fast approaching and the United States military completely decimating Iran with each passing hour, the regime acknowledged reality to the negotiating team. They put forward a more reasonable and entirely different and condensed plan to the president and his team. President Trump and the team determined the new modified plan was a workable basis on which to negotiate and to align it with our own 15-point proposal.
Okay, so J.D. Vance is in Hungary. It was a few hours ago on the tarmac with Air Force Two behind him saying virtually the same thing. And the implications here are that the 10-point plan that we've all been looking at is not legit. I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. I'm not buying it. It's up to them to prove us wrong, not just say it. I want to see what David Pyne thinks about this in 1 second, but here's basically the same comment by J.D. Vance in Hungary on the tarmac.
Objectives. What we know is the United States could have imposed significant additional military and economic costs on Iran and still has the capacity to do so. But we thankfully, at this point, I think, have a ceasefire, thanks to the leadership of the President of the United States. The Iranians promising to open the Straits of Hormuz, and we have a negotiation that's supposed to start this weekend. That's the truth. I think it's a good first step. We're going to see if we can make more progress here in the days to come.
All right, then we'll go to the other clip. Here's another clip that I think is what I was really looking for. Here it is.
You guys are going to ask about Iran. Let me just say a few things, actually. So, number one, I think it's very important for the American media to be honest with the American people on this particular issue, because it affects not just, you know, the normal issues of public policy. It actually affects peace and war. And here's what I mean. So in the past couple of days, I've seen a lot of reporting from the American media about the 10-point proposal that the Iranians have made. Now, as I know, because I've been involved in this, there are 3 different 10-point proposals, at least, that I've seen floating around. The first 10-point proposal was something that was submitted, and we think, frankly, was probably written by ChatGPT, that was submitted to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. That immediately went in the garbage and was rejected. There was a second 10-point proposal that was much more reasonable, that was based on some back and forth between us, between the Pakistanis and that is the 10-point proposal that the president was referencing in his truth yesterday. And then, frankly, I've seen a third 10-point proposal that's even more maximalist than the first 10-point proposal that's been floating around various social media channels. Now, here's what's interesting about all this, is that I've seen various organs, the New York Times, CNN, others, pick up and run the original 10-point proposal based on little more than a random Yahoo in Iran submitting it to public access television in the country of Iran, and then them saying that somehow represents the negotiating position of the government. It's the equivalent of somebody in, let's say, a Democratic councilman in Boise, Idaho, saying something crazy, the local public access TV picking up that crazy.
All right. David Pyne joins us. David, what do you make of all this?
About Iran, sir.
Well, let me
let me just say, it comes from.
What do you make of all this, David?
Hey, Brady, great to be with you. So I think that there's, as we discussed prior to the show, the Trump was in a really hard place. I've been predicting that this war would end in a strategic defeat for the U.S. Just because there was nothing the U.S. Navy could do to retake the Strait of Hormuz. None of the U.S. war objectives had been accomplished, and Trump was really hurting in terms of politically. I mean, his poll numbers have plummeted. The economy has taken a big hit. Gas prices have taken a big hit. He's losing all elements of his base. The mega base is shattered. But ultimately, what happened is Iran presented a 10-point peace proposal, which is really the first official peace proposal that they've provided us. They've been rejecting Trump's ceasefire offers for the past 5 weeks, feeling that they were in a stronger position to continue the war and win a missile war of attrition than the U.S. was. And that proposal was provided on the 6th of just 2 days ago, on Monday morning. President Trump, he responded by saying it was a significant proposal, but it was not good enough. And he proceeded to continue to make what appeared to be threats of nuclear annihilation against the Iranian people just yesterday morning. And then he realized that this was essentially Iran's best and final offer. And so he decided to, pull it out of the trash can, as Carolyn Levitt alluded to, and essentially accept it as what he called a working basis for negotiations. And I think you and I may have some differences. I think much of what Iran has set forward is reasonable from an America First perspective. The U.S. does not want to have its military bogged down in a forever war in Iran. I think there was a big argument on the part of President Trump and others that the U.S. should not have gotten involved in another Middle Eastern war, and really doesn't need to have a large military presence in the Middle East at all. So I think that the White House is just trying to paper over what they believe, what the neocons, of course, are criticizing him as being too lenient to Iran and accepting their peace terms when they've come out outright and rejected our 15-point peace proposal.
Okay. So do you believe the 10-point plan that's out there is the plan they agreed to as the basis for negotiations? Or is that fake news as they're now trying to spin it? Is the administration spinning this because of the blowback that they received immediately from people when they saw it? And now they're trying to say, oh, no, that's not the 10-point plan. The 10-point plan we agreed to, you haven't seen. I'm not buying that. Are you?
No, I'm not. I think the one that's circulating, that there was an initial 10-point plan, which is a little bit at variance with the one that's being circulated on 90% of media channels and X. And I think the one that's been circulating on all media channels is actually the accurate one. I mean, it's certainly the wording may differ a little bit, but I believe I've seen an Iranian source provide that.
All right, well, let's look at this one. Here's WION, for instance. WION, they're claiming, let me get rid of all these buttons here. They're claiming the 10-point plan includes the Strait of Hormuz stays Iranian. Is that all? Did I start at the top? There we go. Maybe that's the first one. Make sure we got the first. Okay.
Non-aggression is the first.
Non-aggression. No more attacks. Strait of Hormuz stays in Iran. Stays Iranian. The right to enrich uranium. Sanctions against Iran gone. Termination of all UN Security Council resolutions. Termination of all IAEA Board of Governors resolutions. Payment of compensation to Iran. Withdrawal of U.S. combat forces from the region. Ceasefire on all fronts, including Lebanon. Tehran demands binding UNSC resolution. All right, I think that's all of them. Do you believe those are the legitimate original 10-point plan?
Those are a little bit at variance from what the 10-point plan that I've seen. And so it's understandable that J.D. Vance could credibly say that there's multiple versions. Because that version is more of a summary. It's not the exact wording that I've seen. But with the exception of the last point, I think that's pretty much accurate. It pretty much explains what are in the 10 points. So the reason I think that this is more of a victory for Iran is it does leave Iran in control of the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf. There is a presumption that the U.S. will not rebuild its military bases in the Persian Gulf region. Iran did succeed in destroying 13 of our military bases and or render them unusable. I think that I don't think Trump really has much of an incentive to rebuild those back up. We won't see. He's made some true social posts about how the U.S. is going to send maybe some ships, warships into the Persian Gulf or Strait of Hormuz to make sure it stays open. That's not going to happen. I think Iran would threaten to sink them. Hexas kind of made those kind of comments as well. And then, of course, sanctions, all sanctions being lifted. And then, enrichment. Certainly, Iran is willing to commit to not enrich beyond 3.67%. I think they're still willing to give up their highly enriched uranium stockpile of 1,000 pounds, potentially up to 15 atomic bombs that they could build with that to the Russian Federation. I'm not sure that they would be willing to give that up to IEA, but I think that's something that could be included as part of the permanent peace deal. But ultimately, we see Iran strengthened as a result of this war at the strategic level. Obviously, they've suffered many military losses. There's word that their missile force may be degraded up to 50%. Their Navy and Air Force potentially also around 50%. But at the strategic level, they're going to make $100 billion more potentially on transit fees through the Strait of Hormuz. They're now essentially a recognized regional hegemon over the Persian Gulf region. It's kind of a no-go zone, I guess, as opposed to a no-fly zone. It'd be a no-see zone for U.S. military forces. And so, I think they can credibly boast that they went up against the combined forces of the U.S. and Israel and came out the victors.
Yeah, it is I think again a PR problem that bolsters them. So I want to go back again to this point of the varied 10-point plans, okay? The final one that's circulating. They may differ a little bit, but not much. And now we're being told by J.D. Vance and Caroline Leavitt that anyone circulating those, is pushing fake news. Well, then why don't you release on White House stationery the 10-point plan and clear this up? You know why they're not doing that as of right now while we're on the air? Because it is the 10-point plan, are pretty close. Otherwise, they would release the 10-point plan, which is the basis of negotiation, and we'd all move on. Now,
That's exactly right.
You agree with that?
Absolutely.
So this is all diplomatic fog. This is spin master smoke blowing. Because if you read the social media, even on President Trump's own Truth Social platform, his own base is ticked, a lot of them. A lot of them. There are some he can never do any wrong. If they wanted a king, they got a king, apparently. I'm not looking for a king, not in the White House. So we're here to present the truth, not to be duped. I'm not going to be duped. A lot of us were duped by George W. Not going to be duped again. To quote his father, wouldn't be prudent. So we're not doing that. We're asking a lot of questions. So if this plan that's floating around is not the plan, then isn't this where you say put up or shut up? Then put up the 10-point plan on White House letterhead and say, here it is. But the problem is Pakistan, they publicized this 10-point plan. They delivered it via Pakistani representatives. The Pakistani government. Is the Pakistani government, Logan, out saying that the plan running around is fake? Logan? You're not listening, are you? You're talking to Thomas about the show. What? About how cutting edge and great this is right now? Oh, different show. So you're not even commenting on this show. Half a second he turned around. Well, you see a lot happens on a half a second on this broadcast. Is Pakistan, that you know of, guys in there, refuting this 10-point plan, saying that's a lie? That's not a real plan? Not that I know of either. So if Pakistan supposedly has delivered this, and yet is being treated as some kind of fake news, then it's incumbent upon the White House to clarify things, not lecture us for supposedly disseminating a fake 10 points. I think the 10 points are pretty close to accurate. It was a basis for negotiation. Fine. Why would they accept this? He needed an off-ramp. You've already laid it out. He needed an off-ramp. He even had Senator Johnson of Wisconsin saying, quit talking about bombing their bridges and infrastructure. We're not after the Iranian people we're trying to free. Some are saying that would be an international crime. So it is not going well for fertilizer, fuel prices, the market, nothing. And so he took it. And now apparently, are we to believe that because of the people looking at it, going, this really makes Iran look like they won, now he can't have that. So he sends his team out there to say, oh, that's not the 10 points we agreed to. You guys don't have it. It's all being done behind closed doors. Well, that's convenient. David, isn't that awfully convenient?
Yeah, it's very convenient. I think everyone understands, all Trump supporters and non-supporters understand the political necessity of President Trump trying to spin this defeat as a victory. And I support that. I want him to spin it as a victory. I want him to tell the truth about everything in terms of what the peace plan is and whatnot. But I want him to spin it as a victory, because the more Trump spins it as a victory, as Pete Hegseth did this morning, as General Kane did this morning, as President Trump has done yesterday and today, the more likely they'll be to adhere to the ceasefire and keep the war ended. Right now, there's an ongoing, exchange of missile strikes between Israel and Iran because Trump has not, reined in Israel to get them to stop massively bombing Lebanon. And so Iran has stated that the strait is going to remain closed as long as Israel continues those ceasefire violations. So it's incumbent upon the president to make a decision. Does he want to rescue, peace, pick it up off the floor and make it last, make it stick, or is he going to stay, enthralled to Israel and let Israel, do whatever it wants? And if the answer is he wants to put America first, he's going to have to, tell Netanyahu that, he may have to suspend U.S. security assistance to Israel unless he complies with the ceasefire. And I think Netanyahu will comply. And the war will, and then Iran will cease its attacks as well. So the 10-point peace plan is exactly what everyone is saying it is. As you said, if it was differently worded, the White House would have already released the accurate version by now. Clearly, they don't have an accurate version because it's already, what we have is essentially what it actually is. And obviously Pakistan is, it's a trustworthy neutral moderator that President Trump and Vice President Vance have recognized as genuinely, neutral mediators that have a vested interest in ending this war and opening the strait. And I heard yesterday one expert said that Pakistan offered 8 tankers full of oil to President Trump as a bribe to get him to agree to this, because they know it's the only way that Iran is going to reopen the strait.
Now, I would push back a little bit. Obviously, probably you're not going to be shocked on the Israel situation, because my position would be that, but did Netanyahu agree to this? And I know he just hit 100 targets in 10 minutes in Lebanon this morning, U.S. time. But I'm talking to our reporter on the ground over there, and it doesn't appear as though Netanyahu agreed to stop bombing Hezbollah in Lebanon. So are Trump and Netanyahu even on the same side of this? And if Netanyahu is getting the treatment we, the American people, are getting right now, David, then I'm a little sympathetic to him, because we're being told we're putting out some kind of fake 10-point plan, but they won't, as of right now, release what is the real 10-point plan, because I think we do have it, as you said. But if they're doing this same spinning and blowing smoke on Netanyahu as they are us, well, how can you get a reasonable plan and have everybody adhere to it if you're not even on the same plan? And from our reporter on the ground and talking with people, it seems like Netanyahu never agreed to any of that. So that in itself is a problem, because then it's going to fall apart almost as fast as it started, which is what is happening, right?
Yeah, I think that's largely correct. I think that Netanyahu was probably given about an hour's notice before Trump publicized the ceasefire, 14 or 15-day ceasefire, and he was pressured to agree with it, but he agreed with it with the exception of, Israel gets to bomb Lebanon in perpetuity and occupy it and do whatever it wants to it, and destroy all its homes, as Israel has done in Gaza in the name of fighting Hezbollah. And of course, we know that Hezbollah is a terrorist organization that is Iranian supported. But that's just not what the 10-point plan said. So if Trump is serious about, using the 10-point plan, Iran's 10-point plan as a workable basis for peace, as I said, he's going to have to get a story straight with Netanyahu and say, you're either with us or against us, or maybe he'll rethrow the 10-point plan in the trash, as Carolyn Levitt suggested. But Carolyn Levitt said, she confirmed that Trump did say that Iran's latest proposal was a workable basis for peace. And what I've been hearing is it took 36 hours for President Trump to accept that. And that was really Iran's first official peace proposal. It was his first off-ramp that he was offered. He's been wanting to get out of this war since night one of the war, when Iran fired 4 subsonic cruise missiles at the carrier USS Abraham Lincoln, and reportedly since then 101. President Trump himself stated that Iran fired 101 different anti-ship supersonic missiles traveling at 3.28 Mach 3.28 from 17 different directions. That to me doesn't indicate an Iran that's been militarily defeated.
Well, isn't that what we heard today from Pete Hegseth at the podium, pounding his chest? All our objectives are accomplished. Look, I mentioned to the radio, my wife is not a political creature, right? She's like most American moms, busy running the household. She also works for our organization, handles donor relations, customer support. She spends hours on the phone every day with customer support and donor relations. She's a mother. She's a grandmother. She's very busy. She, is taking care of me, which is a big job in and of itself. As she has Logan, her son that lives here and works here, and she's busy making sure he gets lunch and coffee. And she's busy being a mom who works for this organization. But she's not a political creature. She's not a political animal. Is she interested in all this stuff? Very much so. But she is not a political creature, and she's very much like, I like President Trump. She's met him. She likes him personally. She appreciated the way he treated our family. He was super kind, very attentive to our kids. And so on a personal level, we have an affection for him on a personal level. I guess you can only have that if you have interacted with him on a personal level. And I think most people that do interact with him on a personal level have that little bit of affection because they see a little bit of a father, grandfather interacting with you, because that's what he is. He's a father or grandfather. So my wife tends to be a Trump supporter. But with that being said, when she gave me my first cup of coffee this morning, because she was up before I was, and she watched Pete Hegseth's speech, she handed me that cup of coffee and she said, do they realize how foolish they're looking? And I said, I don't know. I just woke up. What's going on? She said, he's giving a speech at the Pentagon, how they've won, and beating his chest. And, I'm not buying it. She's not down in the weeds on these issues like you and I are. And as a American mom and grandmother, she's like, I'm not buying it. I know reality, and they're looking stupid. And I think there's a lot of people out there in MAGA world that right now, the ones that aren't brainwashed, that are seeing the same thing. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think we know from U.S. history and from world history that governments that take their countries to war tend to lie. The truth goes out the window when the war starts, and this war is no exception. This war has been a war of lies. You can agree or disagree with it, but you can consider it just. You can consider it justly fought, or you can consider it unjust and unprovoked. I think we should all realize that many, if not much of what the Trump White House has been saying are lies. Lies about meeting our objectives. Just objectively speaking, Trump and Hegseth boast of regime change. What we have is the same Iranian president was in power before, the son of the Ayatollah, who's now Ayatollah Khomeini Jr., essentially. The same Speaker of the Parliament, the same head of the Iranian judiciary. Just right down the list. Yes, there's been some musical chairs. We killed 50 Iranian leaders, including most of Iran's first family. But the new leaders aren't more reasonable. They're not more reasonable or more moderate. They're more hardline. They're more anti-Israel. They're more anti-American. And they're more committed to revenge because we've actually done something to Iran that we've never done to another country before, which is to kill off their political and religious leader at the highest level, and leave them wanting, to retaliate against the U.S. on a massive level. And that, we discussed that could be a cyber or a massive cyber or super EMP attack. It could be nuclear mushroom clouds above Washington, D.C. or New York City. So when I saw President Trump, put America first by accepting Iran's 10-point plan and enacting a 2-week ceasefire, I was very grateful. I think that was a good move. I think it was acknowledging defeat. But I think the longer that Trump fights this war, the greater the scale of our defeat will be militarily, economically, strategically, and certainly politically, as the control of the U.S. Senate. Everyone was predicting, I think, 3-1, we would keep control of the Senate for the Republican Party. And now, since the war is, on pause, that's now about 55 to 45% in the Democrats' favor. So I think Trump realizes that. He's been firing, he's fired Pam Bondi. He's looking at firing other cabinet officials, knowing that come January, there's going to be a united Democrat Congress in both in the House and the Senate.
Which will be horrible for him, for us, the country. And, last summer during the 12-day war, Annie Cyrus and I were saying America should stay out of it. Let Israel do their own bidding. Let them do their own thing. They've been planning for that kind of thing for years and years and years. Let them do their own thing. And if we want to provide and sell them weaponry or intelligence, then we can go do that. I'm a strong Christian Zionist, but it doesn't say in Genesis 12 verse 3, you have to pay for their wars. It doesn't say you have to agree with all their wars of their government. It doesn't say you have to always agree with their government. It doesn't say you have to have your boys drafted to go fight for Israel. So, I know what that verse means, and I know what the overall context of being a Christian Zionist means. I don't think some of the anti-Christian Zionists know what it means, and I have to always tell them, no, I'm not for building a third temple. That isn't what we believe. Yeah, there's some kooks out there that do believe that, or maybe some of them are not kooks. They just have it wrong. I'll be willing to, think that some believe that it'll be a legitimate temple for all people to come pray. I have a couple friends that believe that, and they're not kooks. But there are some out there that have their eschatology and theology really weird, and they believe that. That's up to them. But I'm not one of those people, okay? And there are others that think that the Jews and the Christians come to salvation in different paths. John Hagee believes that. I don't agree with John Hagee's theology on a lot of areas. The point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of misinformation out there about what Zionists and Christian Zionists believe, and we're not always on the same definition of the term. And as a Christian Zionist, I tell you right now, I said, hey, we can still bless Israel by not, being involved in anti-Semitism, refuting anti-Semitism. We can still bless the Jewish people by standing up for their civil liberties and their civil rights. We can do a lot of things that fit that commandment or that passage. That doesn't mean I have to agree with everything the government does or support their wars or pay for their wars or have my kids die on their battlefield. No. Okay. So let them go handle it. That was our position. Mine, and I think Annie agreed with that too. She was the one also talking about that for the 12-day war. And now I think we're learning right now why we should have stuck to that for this. So here we are. But the question really comes back to, as you said, lying to us. And that's where I start getting upset. Because I pay a lot of taxes. You pay a lot of taxes. The listeners here pay a lot of taxes. And we pay a lot of taxes through a hidden tax called inflation. And all of this is creating that for us as well. We have the right to hear the truth. Does that mean we get to hear every classified thing? No. 90% of it is mostly in the public domain anyway. But don't lie to us to cover your rear ends and your mistakes. Or, oops, we agreed to this. It was put out. Now we're getting a political pushback. So let's tell them, oh, you guys don't have the right plan. Let's lie to cover our rear ends politically. That's the garbage I'm sick of. That's what Washington does to us. Every party, every president, every administration. That's what I'm sick of. Treat us like what we are. We are the government. We are the government. We're paying the bill, and don't treat us like mushrooms, throw a bunch of garbage on top of us. I cleaned it up for TV. But is this really about them having a nuclear weapon? Because I think you and I know they've probably had one for 10 years, probably more than one. Well, that's what we were told this was about. It's like, oh, they have weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Well, they've got a nuclear weapon. We got to go. It's an imminent threat. Excuse me if I don't buy your line without a little more proof. And it's up to you to convince us who voted for you to show us the facts, not to say we have to dutifully agree. Because you and I and the late Peter Pyne knew they've had a nuclear weapon for a long time. And they hadn't used it. Doesn't mean they wouldn't let an EMP off the coast. But if that's what you're getting, if your intelligence chatter's telling you, hey, they're about to rip an EMP off in the Gulf of America, well, then tell us that and show us some of that proof, right? Don't have an objective and then yell at us or lecture us because we don't buy your phony excuses. If it's about IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, if it's about oil, then say so. Don't tell me they're an imminent threat with about to get a nuclear weapon when you and I know they've had one for at least 10 years. I'm upset because I don't want to be lied to anymore. And I don't want to be lectured or talked down to because we push back against the lies. Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. Yeah, I mean, this is the first great power war the U.S. has fought against a near-peer competitor since the Korean War, when we fought communist China. And, you know, I'd love to see this be the 38-day war. I'd love for it to stay the 38-day war and not be the forever war I was predicting. You know, if Trump fails to take this exit ramp, which he so wisely did last night, but which he's starting to backtrack on. But you know, as you alluded to, you know, threat is measured not just by capabilities but by intent. I mean, there was no imminent threat. You know, the Pentagon has stated clearly, U.S. intelligence has stated clearly, there was no imminent threat of an Iranian attack of any kind. Not a terrorist attack, not an EMP attack, not a cyber attack, not a nuclear first strike against the U.S. or Israel or U.S. military bases for that matter. President Trump and Secretary Rubio both stated in very clear terms that they were essentially forced or chain ganged, to use a foreign policy term, into this war by Israel because they knew that Israel was about to attack Iran imminently, and Iran had stated in clear terms that if that were to occur, the U.S. would retaliate not just against Israel, but also against U.S. military bases, under the assumption that the U.S. would at some point join the war as it did during the 12-day war. But all Trump needed to say, he just needed to say, okay, Iran, if Israel starts a war against you, we promise to stay neutral so long as you don't attack us.
Exactly. I didn't know where you were going with that, David, but that's exactly what I'm thinking in my mind. So what? If Israel feels that Iran is an imminent threat to them and they want to attack, they are a sovereign country and they can make those decisions for themselves. And I can't guess, because I'm not in the room with the satellites and the classified information, to say it's true or not. But if they believe Iran's an imminent threat and they want to do a strike first, let them do it. And then we can say to Iran, you better not touch us, though. We're sit on the sidelines, but you touch us, we're coming in. But that's not what happened. And that's yet what we've been saying since last summer. President Trump, stay out of the way. Let Netanyahu run this thing, and we stay out of it. Concentrate on America, domestic policy, hardening the power grid, you know, doing the things we need to do. But we're not. And our national policy is not lining up with our international policy. Our foreign policy doesn't match our domestic policy. We are in Tennessee, and our legislature is looking at passing stupid legislation that would provide, with whether some of them know it or not, the reports are prayer rooms and all kinds of stuff to the Islamists. They're building mosques as fast as they can in Texas and a lot of other places. You've got the mayor of New York, you know, doing what he's wanting to do when it comes to Sharia. We have a competing legal system, Sharia, coming into America at many levels. So in my opinion, I'm thinking, why are we not concentrating on the fact that we have people that are openly preaching in these mosques the overthrow of America and threatening Christians and Jews? But you want to tell me that Iran is the threat when they're over there and these people are right here, and some of them are carrying out terrorist attacks and shooting up synagogues and going after churches, but the great threat's over there. Well, why don't we deal with what's here when we're not? We're not. You hardly ever hear anyone talk about it in the administration anymore. So I'm like, well, let Israel do what they want to do. But no, we jumped in, and now it's a mess. But that's kind of what Annie and I were saying was going to happen if we jumped in. Last summer, I think maybe you were joining in on that chorus too, right?
Yeah, absolutely was. All the reasons that President Trump says he decided to intervene in this Iran-Israeli war are things that happened. You know, he said that, well, we had to attack them because we knew they were going to attack our military bases. Well, we've had 13 military bases destroyed. We've had, by my accounts, about 750 U.S. military casualties, of which only 15 are dead, thank heavens. But 750 killed or wounded. In a war that we could have avoided. I don't think Iran would have closed the Strait of Hormuz. I don't think they would have attacked any U.S. military bases if we'd stayed neutral in the war. I think they were stupid to make that threat, to threaten U.S. military bases if Israel alone attacked them, because that gave the neocons the pretext to make this attack. But essentially, as you mentioned, Iran likely has had nukes for quite some time, according to both Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister, and Dr. Peter Pyne. They've had nuclear capabilities, weapons building capabilities since at least 2003. So that's 23 years. As we've discussed, there's really two possibilities. Either they're a peace-loving country that has decided not to build nukes, even though they could have a large stockpile by now, or they have a modest stockpile already in place, and they've chosen not to reveal it or not to use it, not to even threaten the United States or Israel with nuclear attack. And it's, if in fact they do have nuclear weapons, it shows how reasonable and restrained they are. And I say reasonable in quotation marks. I don't mean to say reasonable, I meant rational and restrained, in that they don't want to commit nuclear suicide for Iran by trying to nuke U.S. and Israeli cities, knowing that the end result would be, a nuclear obliteration of Iran by the United States of America. So the message I'm saying is nuclear deterrence works with every country. Containment works with every country. Every state actor in U.S. history that's developed nuclear weapons, whether it's an extreme regime like Communist China or the Soviet Union or North Korea, and now the Islamic Republic of Iran, has been incredibly deterred by the U.S. in terms of nuclear means, by whether it's mutual assured destruction, you want to say, or whether it's containment. It works. And so there was no imminent threat. There was no reason for the U.S. to go to war. We could have sat on the sidelines and watched Israel strike Iran's military and its nuclear targets. And the U.S. could have put America, Trump could have put America first by staying out of the conflict. And I think history has proven that neutrality is really a very, very pro-American policy. We didn't learn that in the two world wars, and we've certainly not learned it since. But the good news is, if anything good is going to come out of this war, it's that even Marco Rubio is saying the U.S. is considering withdrawing U.S. troops from 80% of our military bases in Europe because our European frenemies or partners are refusing basing rights for any U.S. missions against Iran.
And of course, what'll be very interesting, David, is when the administration is passed and people start writing their books, then we're going to start finding out what was the real motivation, right? Now, different people go to war for different reasons. So we have to ask, who are we talking about? Are we talking about America, President Trump, his administration, Israel? Who are we talking about? But if we're talking about America and the Trump administration, you could still have multiple people in that administration that were wanting to go to war for different reasons. Some were wanting to go to war for oil. Some were wanting to go to war for IMEC and to get control that Strait of Hormuz and that global trade route they're talking about. Some maybe want to get control of that whole area and then build the Ben Gurion port right through Gaza and dump out at the Mediterranean. Others could say we were only doing it because we felt there was an imminent threat, and so we jumped in. There are going to be different people in the administration that write different books that contradict each other. But I think by reading some of those books when they come out, we're going to be able to put our finger on what was really the motivating factor. There may be, oh yeah, this is why we went to war. Yeah, that's right. That was the fourth reason. You're acting like that was the first reason. I want to know what was the first reason you went to war. Don't tell me the fourth reason and let me think it's the first, because I don't think that was the first reason. That was maybe one of the reasons. What was the primary reason? That's what I want to know, right? And we don't get told that often. We're told, oh, weapons of mass destruction or whatever it might be. And here's a clip from President Trump. I think this was on Monday at the Easter egg roll. Listen.
I hate to do it, but we're obliterating, and they just don't want to say uncle. They don't want to cry as the expression goes, uncle, but they will. And if they don't, they'll have no bridges, they'll have no power plants, they'll have no anything. I won't go further because there are other things that are worse than those two. And we might have, well, the thing, if I had my choice, what would I like to do? Take the oil. Because it's there for the taking. There's not a thing they can do about it. Unfortunately, the American people would like to see us come home. If it were up to me, I'd take the oil, I'd keep the oil, and would make plenty of money. And I'd also take care of the people of Iran much better than they've been taken care of. It's been a horrible. They've killed 45,000 people as of a month and a half ago. 45,000 protesters. We don't do that. So if I had my choice, I'd keep the oil. But I also want to make the people of our country happy. I think most people wouldn't understand that.
So the reason I'm playing that, David, is to just simply ask a question. I'm not going to make an accusatory statement. I'm asking a question. Is this about oil? If Iran's had a bomb or more than one for 10 years, is it really about them having nuclear weapons or advancing more of them? Or is it about oil? Is it about the oil routes? Is it about IMEC, the trade, all of that? Is that not okay to ask these questions based on the history of administrations, Republican and Democrat, and not tell us the real agenda, which even General Smedley Butler wrote back in the 30s? All war is a racket and most all of it's fought for corporations. So is it not acceptable for us to ask questions today anymore, David?
It's very acceptable. You know, we live in a free country. At least we like to believe that. And I think that we do to a large extent, although, the Trump administration is and spurious charges, and we could see prosecutions happen just as was done to conservatives during the Biden administration. I think that's a really good question. I think that it's a question that Trump needs to answer. In terms of the real reason that we went to war, I think President Trump has stated that. Just like you said, we get to pick their leaders and we get to take their oil. So it's essentially a war for a U.S. and Israeli imperial expansion. Essentially, President Trump has identified basically every country in the world except for Russia and China and said, this is our sphere of influence. We want to expand our empire. I want to be essentially king of the world, except for maybe the Sino-Russian alliance. And I want to be a Roman Empire and a emperor. And he talks about, Iran supposedly gave him tribute, sent 20 ships to the U.S. full of oil to as a gift, a measure of gratitude for us killing their supreme leader and blowing up their cities and blowing up their schools and universities and medical centers. And their Navy and the Air Force. I just think that's ludicrous. And he said the same thing about Venezuela. He said they also paid tribute and sent 30 million tons of 15 super tankers full of oil to Iran shortly after we abducted their president, their first lady. It's all nonsense, but it's kind of what Trump loves to exaggerate. He loves to boast. Some people call it exaggeration, lies, or misleading, whatever you want to call it. It's simply not based on facts and reality, but it's an image that President Trump likes to portray. And as I said, when it comes to ending this war in Iran, I'm fully on board with him calling it a victory. I'll gladly support that because the more he calls it a victory and spins it as a victory, the more I think that he's likely to stick to the ceasefire.
dpyne.substack.com, dpyne.substack.com. Lively conversation as always. David, appreciate your coming on here and talking this through with us.
Thanks, Brad. Always a pleasure.
David Pyne, check again, dpyne.substack.com. We'll be right back. We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com. All right. Because we are very interested in making the blood boil of a percentage of the audience. We're having back with us Annie Cyrus. The other percentage cheers, the other, their blood boils. Annie, welcome back. That's just the way it is. Were you watching some of the feedback from today's radio show today?
I was, and I love that now you have to give trigger warning before you introduce me.
Yeah, trigger warning. That's a good idea. Okie dokie. Let's go to one of the clips that's very important to play, because I've been saying, look, wait a minute. I don't think Benjamin Netanyahu agreed to any ceasefire when it comes to fighting the Iranian proxies in Lebanon. And that's exactly what Caroline Levitt said today. I think President Trump has said the same thing. Here we go.
Danny.
Thanks, Caroline. Would President Trump like to see Lebanon included in this peace deal? Because as you know, there have been increased Israeli strikes on Lebanon today with dozens of casualties there.
Sure. Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. That has been relayed to all parties involved in the ceasefire. As you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu put out a statement last night in support of the ceasefire, in support of the United States' efforts, and he's also assured the president they'll continue to be a helpful partner throughout the course of the next 2 weeks.
All right, so there you go. That's not part of the deal, and that's one reason they're firing. But apparently Iran is using this as saying, you've broken the ceasefire deal. Is that what I'm reading? Annie?
Yes, but again, it goes back to if Lebanon was not part of the ceasefire, why no one has corrected the Prime Minister of Pakistan and make him come out on the same X account that he made the announcement, including Lebanon by word of Lebanon in the original statement, redacting. We need that.
So in the original statement, the leader of Pakistan was believing that Lebanon was included in the ceasefire.
The way he wrote it on his X wasn't that he believes. Just look up Pakistan Prime Minister Sharif, that's Sharif on X.
Got it, yep.
He didn't phrase it as I believe. He phrased it as it is part of it. That he's very happy to announce that Islamic Republic of Iran and United States of America and their allies have to come to agreement of complete ceasefire effective immediately, including Lebanon and elsewhere. Not just Lebanon, they said elsewhere. Like, what is next? Houthis in Yemen? Is that part of the ceasefire? The way Prime Minister Sharif phrased this announcement needs to be corrected by him, because he's backing Iran by putting another tweet out saying, I'm receiving reports of ceasefire violations, tagging Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Witkoff, Marco Rubio, Ghalibaf, a couple other people. So if this is true, if it was communicated clearly that Lebanon is not part of it, then somebody needs to get Prime Minister Sharif to put out a statement redacting or backtracking or explaining why he said specifically including Lebanon and elsewhere. I'm not even worried the Lebanon part right now. I'm worried about the elsewhere, Brannon. What is that elsewhere? Because Houthis are in Yemen. Hamas is involved. Like, are they all part? Did we get a big, giant bulk of ceasefire against all proxies? That's the question.
So there it is. Show that if you would again, please, Logan, so we can talk about that. Along with their allies, have agreed to immediate ceasefire everywhere, including Lebanon and elsewhere, effective immediately. Okay.
There you go.
Now, I want to go to what we have been showing, which is an article at WIONnews.com, which generally reports pretty good, accurate news from my years of reading them. Here's what they wrote. Here's the headline we've been going off of, okay? Iran's 10-point plan explained, okay? And we go down the list. We're going to get to what we just saw. You know, there's all the different points of the plan. But I want to go to the one that we're talking about right now. Ceasefire on all fronts, including Lebanon. Now, we just saw from the Prime Minister of Pakistan that one of the deals is a ceasefire, including Lebanon. Well, wait a minute. That's exactly what's on this. So we know that this 10-point plan being put out there by WION News has at least one point that's being backed up by the Prime Minister of Pakistan, who was chosen and agreed upon by both sides to help lay the foundation for some kind of ceasefire. So this leads me to believe that the 10-point plan that we are all reading is not fake. As I said with David Pyne a while ago, if this 10-point plan is not the 10-point plan that President Trump and the White House agreed to and that Iran agreed to, why is Iran not saying, well, what is he talking about? That was the 10-point plan. Why is the White House not putting out their 10-point plan on White House letterhead and saying, here's the real one? Why are they not doing that? And then we would all be on the same page. I don't think they're doing that, as I said, because this is the 10-point plan, and we just had one of the points confirmed by the Prime Minister of Pakistan. So I think they're all pretty well close. What are your thoughts on this? Well, spinning by what's her name, Caroline Leavitt and J.D. Vance. Are you buying this?
No, specifically because now we showed Prime Minister of Pakistan, you showed an American outlet, I believe, the website you just showed. There is a photo attached to my rundown from my show today titled 10-point. That 10-point I showed on my show, it's the one that Iran has released.
Okay, by the way, but the one I'm showing is India. That's a news outlet out of India.
Okay,
but I have followed him for some time, and they do a pretty good job reporting the news. That's one reason I like to go to their website. All right, so what's that one? This is
the one that the Iran regime has released. This is the one that was released by Islamic Republic of Iran, by the National Council of Islamic Republic of Iran, by Ghalibaf, the Speaker of Parliament, and by Araghchi, which is the Foreign Minister. And in this one also, we have on number 8, end to all war fronts, including the against proxies in Lebanon. That's number 8 here too. So we have 3 sources that we're supposed to not trust, which is okay. I'm good with not trusting them. That's completely my motto. But then I don't have a 4th one to compare it to. Please provide me with a 4th version, and I will then use my knowledge to see which one is the real one.
And the 4th one would come from the White House.
Exactly. The
which
4th
they're
one,
still not releasing.
The one they claim exists but won't release to save their claim from the fake ones.
And the reason they're doing this, I believe, is because the response to the 10-point plan has been so negative by the base, by MAGA people. MAGA supporters are shocked.
Well, I mean, look at those 10. Number 1, number 2, every single one of them is absolute no can do. They're asking for sanction relief, primary and secondary sanctions to be lifted. They're asking for
reparations, basically.
Reparation, thank you. They're asking for to be let free or let be to do the uranium enrichment. They're asking for all of their proxies to be protected and given free pass, basically. They're also asking for all the United Nations and the agency, the nuclear agency, articles against them to be lifted. Of course, and here's the thing, again, another part of this entanglement is words coming out of President Trump's mouth on his Truth Social when he said that they have received a 10-point plan from Iran that are workable. If there was a different 10-point, why did he not attach those 10 points to the original post as proof to say, here's the 10 points I'm talking about? So knowing the regime that I call very smart and less radicalized today will lie to you, I'm going to get ahead of it. He could have attached those. No, the 10-point he's talking about on that truth is the same 10-point that Iran has released, is the one that your source is quoting, and it's the one that Prime Minister of Pakistan used to say, including Lebanon and elsewhere. Now, with that 10-point, you can understand where elsewhere comes from, because the request is protection of all proxies of Iran.
So what does it tell you about the White House and J.D. Vance? What does it tell you about them when they're trying to spin this? You're very interested in this topic tonight. Why? What are they trying to tell us, or what does it tell you? I know. With all the seriousness in the world, we need dogs to help keep us grounded, or
cats in my case,
or cats, and release some stress and anxiety, right, sweetheart? So what does it tell you about this White House and the press secretary and JD Vance when they come out and tell us, basically you guys are citing a fake plan, a fake 10-point plan? What does it tell you? That they're just like every other administration in some regards, that they'll just spin it and be involved in spinning when things aren't going well for them?
Exactly. That in my case, it tells me that I was right from day one of this administration. I wasn't picking on them because of my bad experiences with my Muslim daddy. No, I was picking on this administration because from day one, I spotted seeing the discrepancy. One day, we're going to fight Islam. One day, al-Sharaa is a good-looking guy. The other day, we're going to break all of the deals and start selling weapons to Erdogan while calling him a good leader. Of course, down the line, we're going to call IRGC good people too. We might even get into business with them. We might share control of the Strait of Hormuz with them because like many other recent administrations, this one does not operate on values, especially Judeo-Christian values. They operate on what's good for them, even if that means they're going to call some of the most accurate reporters like me and you fake news.
And they're going to put a man that did 13 years in jail, in prison, for his jihadist activities on the Religious Liberty Commission, right?
Exactly. Because we believe in reform. Again, we believe in reform. Convicted jihadists, we give them a job because we believe in redemption, I guess. A man we wanted for millions of dollars becomes a good-looking guy that gets an invitation to the White House.
The president of Syria.
The man, al-Sharaa, also known as Jelani. The man who has publicly, openly called for destruction of America and all Western countries and has said, stop insulting us by saying radical Islam. He gets an invitation to the White House, takes pictures, shake hands, give him weapons. That has been the motto. I again, at the end of last year, 2025, the last Substack before the New Year's Eve Substack that came out was me doing a review of original Trump versus Trump 2.0 when it comes to Islam and Islamization. I did a side-by-side comparison of his words, his policy and actions during the first term versus just the first year of his second term. And I concluded that without me having to push anybody or sway anybody, you can clearly see somehow President Trump have decided it is better to have alliance with Islamic nations, leaders, and militia than try to protect America's sovereignty and safety. That was my conclusion on December of 2025. Now we even see more of it.
So as we're on the air tonight, is the Strait of Hormuz open yet, guys?
No.
So the deal's already broke. The ceasefire's already been broken, the terms.
Ghalibaf already announced. He announced that there is no point of neither negotiating nor having a ceasefire because 3 terms of this 10-point has already been violated. One of them was the Lebanon situation.
And who said that? Who said that?
Ghalibaf, the Speaker of Parliament in Iran. He already put that statement out.
Wasn't he the leader of the quote new regime they're negotiating with?
No, that was everybody's guess. I was actually the one that I said Ghalibaf is not the guy they're talking to. Remember when we talked about
Mousavi? The guy was the head of the Green Party.
Yes.
Who ran for president in 2009 and they put under house arrest.
Exactly. But yeah, no, Ghalibaf already announced.
Do we have a video of him? Is he saying it? Where's the video?
No, he put out a statement, written statement.
Yeah, can we show it?
That's how we say. I don't think it wasn't. I don't think it was included my rundown. But let me pull it up.
Was
here.
it in Farsi? You wouldn't be able to read it anyway. Then
no, it's in English.
Actually,
JD Vance already said that I read his statement, and clearly his English isn't too well. I'm like, did you expect Golubov to write in perfect English, JD Vance, when Trump writes with 500 grammar errors? Like that was the point he took out of what JD Vance's point from the Post, but I'm scrolling as fast as I can to get that to you. No, he put it out. He put it out in English, and the statement was basically I think he used the words clause. 3 clause of the 10-point has been already violated. Therefore, and the 3 points he brings up is number 1, the Lebanon situation. Number 2, enriched uranium. And number 3, he said there are already drones or jets, something like that, in the skies of Iran. That's already. With that said, we're not making a deal. We're not going for a ceasefire, or said there is no point of trying to make a deal or doing a ceasefire. My point is, yeah, the ceasefire was over pretty much 10 minutes after it started. And you have a UAE now, the foreign minister of UAE saying, can someone make this ceasefire clear for us, because they don't even know where they're standing with the ceasefire. So it's there
it is.
Did you find it?
Yep.
I found it before I did. Yes, that's the one. See the 3 clause that he's pointing out.
So where do you see this all going, Annie?
This is gonna go. This is gonna go exactly where I said it's gonna go last year. If you remember, after the ceasefire of last year, I said, here we go. We're going to try the same pattern we tried with Hamas. Now we're going to try it with Iran. Attack them, ceasefire, attack them, ceasefire, attack them, ceasefire, attack them, ceasefire. That's where it's going to go. That is exactly where this is.
So this is going to stretch into the summer?
Oh, I think this is going to stretch into next year. Now, mind you, one thing I heard today that I don't know if it's true or not. No, I didn't even look at the legal terms to see it is, but I was told by a good friend today that, think about it this way. We were already on day 41 of this war, correct? On day 41, Trump would have only 19 days left until he was forced to take this to Congress. But a temporary ceasefire resets his 60-day clock. And he knew he's not going to finish this in 19 days. So he created this gap to reset the clock on his 60 days.
Okay, so this is news I did not know. So are you telling me that maybe the reason they accepted this ridiculous 10-point plan is for that reason right there?
That is what if Logan, if you can look up and confirm that it is, I was told 60 days is on the day 60th, he is forced to take this to Congress for approval of continuing it. So if that is the case, yes, it goes back to what we said. This is going to be a repeated pattern. And also this comes back to he was not informed. He was told we're in and out of there. It's done. Easy peasy. Now he's realizing it's going to take way more than what he thought, what he was told, apparently. So he might need to continue doing these ceasefires because the next 60 days not going to get him what he wants either.
Yep. Here we go. Look at this, guys. Congressional response to indoctrination of U.S. a 60-day period. Okay. Section 5B is sometimes interpreted to allow president to unilaterally involve U.S. armed forces in hostility for any reason for at least 60 days. This interpretation might seem at odds with the assertions of limited presidential power in Section 2C as well as Section 8D2, which states that the WPR does not confer any presidential authority to involve U.S. armed forces hostilities. Under Section 6, see below, the 60-day period seems to serve primarily as a window for Congress to possibly authorize an otherwise unauthorized use of the military. Congress may require the president to remove U.S. armed forces from such unauthorized hostilities at any time by concurrent resolution. What were you calling it, Logan? War Powers Resolution 1973. Yeah, there it is. On November 7th, they enacted the War Powers Resolution, November 7th, 1973. Over the veto of President Nixon. So yeah, 60 days unless Congress declares war. So this may explain a lot, Annie. Is anyone else reporting this tonight, Logan?
No, this was even a private call of mine with a friend of mine who said this.
Well, whoever told you that needs to stay in the loop with us because this is pretty intelligent stuff.
Oh, I talk to him at least once a day for a good 45 minutes.
Let's keep that kind of information going because this may explain why they took such a stupid 10-point plan. All they were looking for is basically anything. Just give us something.
The interesting part was I got on the phone with him after I got off your radio while getting ready for my show. And he called me to say, he listens to your program. He called me to say, I don't agree with Aaron's statement of a trap, but here's what Trump could have achieved with that 13 hours you keep referring to.
Mm-hmm.
He could have achieved the break of clock, reset clock, even if they're forced to get back in there within the next 5 hours. As long as there was that stop, consider ceasefire, the clock just reset for another 60 days for him not to have to face Congress. So I was like, oh, I checked the law, but that's interesting. Now, it doesn't excuse the situation. I want to be clear. I'm not softening my tone of saying this was a great idea, but that was his take on, because if you remember on your radio, I said, what would he achieve? What, like regrouping in 13 hours? That's not going to make sense. So his point was, yes, even 5 hours would achieve the reset of clock for him. So I go, okay.
So this is likely to continue for a while. And of course,
this is going to be a Hamas situation. Watch. I mean,
China, Iran, Russia, North Korea, all the enemies of America would have every reason to keep this going at least into the summer months. As you have all these candidates out there running for election and re-election. Because this is one way they can all get rid of basically Donald Trump, make him a lame duck for 2 years. And then, of course, they start impeaching him and everything else. So this is, again, one of many reasons why you and I kept saying since 2025, let Israel take care of this. Let Israel take care of this. We kept saying it's Trump being led into a trap. You know, Aaron was wondering if Trump has set the trap. You and I were saying we believe this is a trap being set by deep state actors around Trump and maybe being given false information and misinformation to get him to go do things he doesn't fully understand as far as the practicality of it, you know, the possibility of it, right? Because of the terrain, the mountain range there next to the strait, the fact that Iran's been preparing this for so many years, a lot of reasons, right?
Yes, but here's another thing outside of what my good friend said. By the way, I have tried to convince him to come on your show. He's not doing cameras. He won't even let me name him. But point is, I think he should. He's very good with legally dissecting or doing analysis. But anyhow, I agree. His point aside, my point that I thought about and I made on my show, Brandon, is if you want to be positive, you know, let's be optimistic about this. I have one way of looking at this optimistic. Yesterday, I think on your show, I said Trump is at a crossroad where he needs to pick between his ego or midterms. What if? Very optimistic, but logical. What if the ceasefire was for Trump to be able to step back and become the backup of Israel while Israel continues to finish the job? Because any other way, it would have looked like we lost.
Okay, so in other words, the ceasefire, we back up, and he does what we suggested he do the first time back in summer of 2025 is let Israel handle it. And he just does that.
And we become and by the way, I need to be very, when I say backup or support, I don't mean our soldiers. I mean
technology,
equipment.
selling them equipment, etc.
Exactly. Even if that means we give them the equipment or the machinery or the fighters, anything, and, you know, give them a loan on it because, you know, they're at a point where they may not have the budget. It's still to our benefit to do that. Then we go back in. That's the only, because I was forced. I'm like, people were asking me, can you find anything good in this? Here's the only good I can find. That President Trump has decided, I'll keep my ego where it's at. I might be able to save the midterms and not end up losing everything by stepping back, talking to Bibi behind the scenes and say, hey, I'm going to create a ceasefire through Pakistan. And then they will break, of course, the ceasefire. And then you go in and finish them. You have access to our, ships and equipment. And I just send my guys home in about a week or two. And it all seems like we won. And you're the bad guy who's still fighting Iran. That's the optimistic. You see, I can be positive about things.
Yeah, you can be positive.
Far-fetched, but reality, it could become reality.
Wow. Well, look at that. Look at what we all just learned tonight. Isn't that something? All right. Well, we'll keep us posted, Annie, right?
Absolutely. I'll keep
By the way,
posted,
what's going on with Turkey? What is Erdogan doing during all this?
Oh, he is on the phone with Prime Minister of Pakistan, guiding him. And that, by the way, let's talk about this for a minute, Brennan. Why Pakistan? Why? Why did we move on from Qatar as middleman to Oman as middleman to Pakistan suddenly? And quick note, Pakistan is the most destabilized country in the region. Why do I say that? Brand new country, 1946. They have not had a single administration successfully finish a term. Their prime ministers were even either assassinated or convicted and put in prison for some sort of corruption. We are not necessarily allies with them. We have some treaties with them. But recently, when Pakistan decided to sign a deal with China bringing Taliban into that deal, we were very upset with Pakistan. We even gave them ultimatums because that's all we can do with Pakistan, because on top of all of that, they said they're sitting on 170 plus nuclear weapons. So why is Pakistan suddenly a trusted middleman for us, Brian?
Why?
I can be not optimistic and say, why don't we look at it this way? Did we force this ceasefire on Iran? Or did Iran use Pakistan and Pakistan's threat to force us into this ceasefire?
And what would Pakistan's threat be?
Did I mention they said 170 plus nuclear weapons? And they have few times they have hinted that they have no problem selling some of those to Iran.
Well, let's show the draft again from the Prime Minister of Pakistan, because as Logan pointed out to me last night, I think you pointed this out to me, Logan. He puts it out, and the initial was draft. Pakistan's Prime Minister message. Pakistan's Prime Minister message on X. Now, that obviously isn't something that was drafted inside the country by his people, because you would say draft for the Prime Minister. You wouldn't say draft for Pakistan's Prime Minister, because you are part of Pakistan. It'd be like someone in the White House putting out a draft for President Trump and saying, the United States of America's president, the message for the president of America, America's president, his message. No, because we are America, we are Americans. You would say the draft for the president. You wouldn't say for America's president, right? Because he's your president too. So you would say a draft for the president, right? So the fact that it came out, he didn't, and then he took that out. The fact that he said draft Pakistan's prime minister leads you to believe that this was drafted by someone outside Pakistan. Is that logic sound to you or not?
It does, very much. And also, I would say, knowing the way these people operate, it would be because normally when the brain behind operation comes up with a plan, we have the same system here in America, by the way. This is not just Middle East or Islamic countries, but the brain behind operation coordinates everybody's post, speech, notes and send the draft to everybody. So it's a coordinated moment when you just start all coming out with kind of the same matching narrative. Like the one how me and you are fake news, we're using fake 10 points. So it does make sense. On top of that, having a separate, like, okay, Pakistan Prime Minister is going to post this immediately. Araghchi, the Foreign Minister of Iran, is going to post that. And then we have the Bahrain King to post that. And then Erdogan. So the country name with that one person who's coordinating the narrative would perfectly make sense for not be necessarily Pakistani or Irani or Afghan, whomever that person is.
So more
Which
than
I think
likely,
is Iran.
this was a draft by Iran, as you say, Iran, as I say. This was a draft for Pakistan, for the Prime Minister of Pakistan by Iran, written by Iran, right?
Exactly. Especially also topping it with this disagreement. Iran says this was part of our 10 plan. 10 point. U.S. said it wasn't. So unless Iran wrote it, why would it be specifically included in there? I'm thinking if someone in U.S. wrote that draft, maybe even for purpose of later getting away with it, wouldn't include the word Lebanon. But Iran would make sure to include that word in there.
In other words,
Of
that's a clear
10
sign.
points,
That's a clear sign it was written by Iran.
out of 10 points, why is that one specifically mentioned? Right? Makes you think. They
And-
could have been like,
And if we just go based on that one point, which we know has been validated by Pakistan, right?
yes,
Validated by Iran. It's been said by this Indian outlet to be the 10 points. But if you just go with that one, that's enough to not agree to this.
exactly.
Because you're handcuffing Israel, and we don't have a right to agree to something that they're not in favor of, and they're not in favor of it. Now, the White House is saying today that wasn't part of the plan. But clearly it probably was part of the plan, but they didn't care at this point. They just wanted a ceasefire by both sides so they could restart the clock. This makes more sense to me. Why would you accept a plan that you know includes a line that you know Israel's not even going to agree to, right? Because you don't care. You're just looking for the ceasefire so you can restart the clock. Doesn't this all make more sense to that theory based on the fact that they reportedly accepted a plan that included that wording?
Yes. That's what I'm trying to say. They need it. Well, Trump needed that reset of clock. At the same time, Pakistan suddenly pops up, prepped by Iran. That's the thing. Nobody can question the alliance of Pakistan and Iran. The reason Iran expedited their nuclear so quickly was because of Pakistan. The man in Pakistan who literally made them the 170 plus nuclear, offered his services to Khamenei.
Wow.
He went to Iran. He gave them the blueprint of not just how to build them, but how to get away with it. They broke every treaty with the help of North Korea. This is Pakistan. To have their 170. Again, you look at, just trace the history. Non-existent country, Western empire gives them a country, takes it away. Talk about occupying. Takes it away from India, give it to Pakistanis in 1946. And now, well, pretty much since 2016, they've been sitting on 170 plus nuclear weapons. And the man who did it is the one who went to Iran and offered his services. So their alliance has always been untouched, regardless of what Western media would tell you. Now, suddenly, again, Trump's clock is running out, and Pakistan shows up, says, hey, I can get them to deal. And then, you know, again, you hear China's name dropped by Trump and J.D. Vance today, which would go back to, okay, Pakistan can pull in a favor from China due to the recent deal Pakistan negotiated for China and Taliban, for China to get access to Taliban's mineral in Afghanistan. Just like, okay, time to return the favor. Put a better pressure over there. I'll write whatever they want me to write. Let's get a deal. So at the end of the day, yes, it's a win-win for Trump, for Pakistan, for China and Iran, but it's not a win for anyone else. Like we, the people, the little people, as they would like to call us, there is no benefit. So stop celebrating this. There's nothing to celebrate. We're just about to go through another phase, another trillions of dollars to spend. And only Lord knows how many more lives taken. And reset the clock. We're going to keep resetting the
And as
clock.
I said in
And
my commentary to that of the Worldview Report, this damages our credibility, though, as a nation.
Absolutely.
At many levels. I won't give the commentary again, but at many levels, this damages our credibility. And I think it encourages other countries like Iran to fool around with us and then push us into the corner when it starts becoming politically troublesome for America, politically, economically, etc.
Yes, agreed.
And what does
But
Trump
again,
think he's going to get by resetting the clock? I mean, you're still, unless you just now back up and let Israel handle it as you propose as one idea, this is not going to change anything. They're still dug in over there. They've been preparing for this war for a long time with those mountains right there and all the anti-missile and all the other things they have to their advantage. It's going to be the same equation. That equation's not changing. And if you really think you're going to go bomb the power and the bridges, again, some have said, well, this is against international law. That could set him up for impeachment.
correct. But I don't know. Was it Marx who said it? Or was it Lenin? I think it was Marx. Who controls the narrative, controls the outcome. Trump just gained narrative since yesterday. We won. We won. They're so scared of us. We crippled them. We demolished them. We had to change a regime. That's the narrative for him to reset the clock.
That's not working. Most Americans that are tuned into this know that that's not reality. The people that are drunk.
I'm sorry. He doesn't care about people buying it or not. His focus is his board of peace. He needed this narrative for his board of peace. Who cares about people? Not Trump. I'm sorry. I should have made that clear. He needed this narrative control for his board of peace.
Why?
Why? Well, first of all, the narrative he took, it's going to probably double down on investors on his board of peace. The narrative is he made IRGC bend the knee. That's the narrative. And again, mind you, though Israel took out all the names on the list, though Israel took out Khamenei, for a long time they've been setting the narrative that we took out Khamenei. Like the new saying by J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth is, he doesn't bluff. Don't believe me? Ask Khamenei. Like somehow we played a role in Khamenei's death. So he just, by narrative, not by understanding of American people, by narrative, he just proved, number one, it's up to him when the global economy will be affected. He's going to play that card now. I could have said no to their ceasefire. I could have let them beg and not give them the ceasefire, and you all would suffer, but we wouldn't because we have all the oil we need in America. That's the first pointer he's going to take out of the ceasefire.
You owe me. You guys owe me.
You owe me. There you go. Wow. Why can I think like that? Anyways. That's the number. The second point, every single one of those Gulf states also owe him now because of his ceasefire. Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, they're not being attacked today. They also.
So at the end of the day, it comes back to what we've been saying for a few weeks, at least on my articles and shows, which is this is really about the Strait of Hormuz. It's about IMEC. It's about trade
and
deals. It's about the Abraham Accords, because we know from the Gaza plan that IMEC is a bridge into Gaza. It's all in their Gaza plan. They stated it in the Gaza plan months ago that IMEC was going to be involved, and all of this is together a bridge, and it fits together. So the Abraham Accords, IMEC, Gaza. It all goes together. And that's what this whole war is about. And then gaining leverage for negotiation and chips on the table that can be cashed in to get the moderate Gulf nations to agree to his Abraham Accords agreement, which is the big legacy. So this is the big 30,000-foot view. And I think we just kind of explained that. And I think we're right. But that goes with what we were saying in my articles on the show with you and others weeks ago, which was this whole thing has to do with IMAC, Gaza, and Abraham Accords.
Yes.
And Saudi Arabia wanted this, remember? Saudi Arabia wasn't bin Salman telling him, don't settle, right?
Exactly.
So Saudi Arabia was
that answers your other question of why would he need to reset the clock?
Mm-hmm.
That's why he needs to reset that clock. If he needs to show more narrative, he needs to go back in there and show more narrative.
So he needs to reset the clock so he can go back in and do what the, quote, moderate Gulf nations want, but he was running out of time. He needed to reset the clock.
Yes.
So this is not about the midterms. It's not about the U.S. at all. It's about where he's pushed his entire chips on the table, and that is overseas, Board of Peace, Middle East.
And I remember you had a guest on your show, I want to say June or July of last year. No, it was May of last year. She actually said, you need to stop thinking of Trump as president of the United States and look at him as a man who's setting up his retirement in Middle East.
You said that. No,
I know.
That was you. That was you.
I'm trying to do this humbly because I was told today I'm boasting too much.
Oh, wow. Oh, well. That's just your Persian attitude coming through.
Right? It's a Persian thing.
That's exactly
not the Islamic Republic. The Persian thing.
That's right.
But no, it's definitely, all the dots are connecting for those who are watching. And why would he care? Like, give me one reason, Brandon, that he should care about midterms at this point.
Right. And I know that hurts some people's feelings, but they've drank in the Kool-Aid and they can't see it. But, like I said on radio, what did I say today? And I was pretty adamant. You don't have to agree with us, but we will be proven right. And here we are just a few hours later, and there's more pieces falling into place. You never go wrong by questioning politicians. I don't care what their name is.
Interesting. On my show.
Why are you whining?
I don't know what happened.
She's whining at me. I don't know what's wrong. Yeah, on your show what?
On my show, actually, today, I mentioned that, we played a less than a minute clip of my show from yesterday, which I literally on my show said, we're all good. In a few hours, I'm going to go on Brown House Live and say, you see, nothing happened at 8 p.m. and we're good to go. I played that because within few hours, I exactly did what I said I'm going to. At 4:42 p.m. Eastern time, I said this. And then I went on Brown House 4.5 hours later and exactly said the same thing. It's down to hours of knowing.
Nope.
But the reason me and you do, and genuinely this is not boasting or bragging, is the fact that we have decided not to take comfort over truth. It is staring them in the face and they still deny it.
We do our homework. How many of the viewers, and this is a really informed audience, but they are busy, okay? This is not what they do for a full-time job. So they're busy. How many of the viewers in one of the most informed audiences in the world knew about IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, until we talked about it? Probably not most of them. And yet it's one of the most informed audiences in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is, even when you have an extremely informed audience, most of them don't know about some of these things till we learn about them ourselves, report them, because again, they're busy people with real lives, running real businesses and raising families and grandkids and all that kind of thing, right? But you and I can come to the table and explain things because we've done so much homework, we start seeing pieces of the puzzle and going, but wait a minute. They've already had a weapon, a nuclear weapon, at least one, for more than 10 years. They can get nuclear weapons from different countries if they really want one, more than likely. We don't have to worry about their ability to deliver a nuclear weapon, but they do have the ability with missiles, ICBMs and stuff. They can just shoot it off of a cargo container ship, which they bragged about and showed on TV. So why are we acting like the threat is imminent right now when the threat has been there all along with their ability just to put it on a cargo ship and get it up off the cargo ship's deck in the Gulf of America? So what has changed? We're being told all of this, but what's really changed? Oh, what's really changed is we got a memorandum of understanding in 2023 on IMEC. We have the desire apparently for a Ben Gurion port going through the Gaza. We have Gaza cleaned up and cleaned out since October 7th now. We have Jared Kushner and Witkoff putting together a Gaza plan that talks about IMEC. It talks about what they're going to build in Gaza. There talks about the Abraham Accords. Trump's back in office. He wants all these things. There's talk of the US $1, which his family, I think, is behind that cryptocurrency and using this as medium of exchange. There's a lot of reasons to say there's more to this story than we're being told. And because we know of these other pieces, we go there, right? The average person doesn't go there because they don't know about these other pieces to say, well, I wonder if it's about these things. That's why we're good at this, because we do homework and bring those pieces to play and then start asking questions, because we don't trust politicians in entirety, regardless of who they are. And then when we see these other pieces, we have to say, is that really what it's about? I mean, President Trump told us this week, I would really like to have the oil, but I don't think the American people really want to go there. I mean, he's told us it's about oil in part. Well, what's the rest of it? It's about me doing something for the Gulf moderate Muslim nations so I can get my Abraham Accords. It's about IMEC. It's about a Ben Gurion port. Tell us all the things that it's about, because guess what? All those pieces fit together with one big plan in the Middle East. And that's where all the focus is going. Oh, wait a minute. He's also doing a lot of development over there, is he not? With the Trump family?
Yes. Yes.
So it all kind of fits together, doesn't it? So, wow, color me purple. Why am I so skeptical? But if people want to be George W. Bush again, go for it. Have fun. If it makes you sleep well to be played a fool versus asking critical questions, then go do that if that helps you sleep at night. But that's not my job. My job, the reason people tune into this broadcast is because they like the fact that we ask questions, that we try to use discernment and reason and logic and context and not buy narratives. And that's why I could say on radio today, you don't have to agree with us, but we are going to end up being right. History proves those of us that ask the questions and push back against the reason, because the reason is generally never the reason. Math and history is on your side. Statistics is on your side, that the reason is likely not the reason. So when you push back and say, this isn't the reason, and this isn't going to last because these are terrorists and we know their behavior, you know we're going to end up being right, just from history and statistics. And here we are putting more puzzle pieces together tonight.
Yes, but another part of it I like to think is because people like me and you and many of your audience, we put our faith and trust in God and not man.
Well, you just said what I was going to say next, which is we also are doing something a lot of people don't do. A lot of people in this audience do, but a lot of people in the world and even in the church world, the Protestant world, don't do. We look at the headlines and then we go to the Bible and we say, is there anything in the Bible that tells us we're going to have a strong, wealthy, powerful Middle East with massive trade and money? And yes, we do. And we go into Daniel and Revelation, and pretty quick we figure this out. So we're also doing the overlay of Bible prophecy. We look at the news and then we say, is there anything over here in the Bible that seems to line up with that? So we know the Bible. We then read the news. We started with the Bible. We then read the news. And we're like, wait a minute, that lines up. We've kind of been watching and waiting. Like I wrote my book in 2016, Becoming Religious Right. In 2016, I didn't have a whole lot to say about Babylon in 2016, but look what's happened in 10 years. It's being rebuilt with the Al-Fal port, a major commercial site. Now you add IMEC to it, and the Middle East is roaring back, and it's where everything's going. Well, we already knew that, Revelation 17 and 18. So you and I are also examining this through an eschatology that is largely mocked as being crazy and made up. Well, if dispensationalism and our eschatology, mine, speaking for myself, is so crazy, why is it we keep being so right in making predictions of trends and where geopolitics is going? We shouldn't be able to do that if our eschatology and dispensationalism is wrong. That's all I got.
That's why I always say, hear me now, believe me later.
All right.
And that's all we always ask. I don't want to talk on behalf of everyone on your network, but majority of us on your network, we're not necessarily here to say you have to believe me.
No, we don't.
It's like, just hear my information. What you do with it is up to you. But just hear it. Instead of immediately shutting it down, immediately attacking it, immediately being upset with what's being said, absorb the information, do your own homework like we do, and then decide.
Yeah, and don't be saying, "Oh, well, if you don't like it here, you can leave." That's just ridiculous, right?
That is very ridiculous, and it's even worse.
What I say is, if you don't like what we're saying, turn off the channel.
Well, that's different. You know, there are so many other people who will give you the comfort you desire all day long as a human. They will, like, hopium 2.5 hours.
Yep.
But when you tell people,
the posse, we're going to take it over. We're coming back. The posse, and they sell hopium all day long. And I don't mean being rude, but then you go to their events and you see their followers and you watch them for 2 days at CPAC and you look at them, you go, wow, that's the demographic he attracts? These are not, I'm sorry, but I've been watching and listening to these people that follow him for 2 days from our booth. This is the caliber of the people. Their hygiene, but then again, their host hygiene is a question, but their hygiene alone, and then their common sense, their education of reason and logic and context is so lacking. And you're like, well, no wonder these are the people that follow that guy. Have you ever noticed that, Logan? Where you go to some of these people and you listen to the hopium they're selling and you're like, who is listening to this? There's not critical thinking here. It doesn't take long to realize this is a carnival barker selling a product, an item, and an audience to what they want to hear. The Bible says that they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. Maybe people don't want to hear what it is we have to say. And I don't want what we're saying to be true, because I want leaders that are doing the right thing for America, not who have actually moved on to the Middle East and are cutting deals and making decisions based on getting chips on the table that can be cashed in with the Gulf nations and to get a legacy through Abraham Accords. But I also know the Bible says these things are coming. So at the same time, I'm like, okay, I don't have to be for it to know it's happening and to call it out. But I look at these people that are being sold this opium, and then I go to the conferences like CPAC, and I see some of their followers standing around their booth, and I'm like, well, no wonder. These are not the brightest people in the world. That's why people tune into this broadcast, because we're not selling opium. We are trying to figure it out through facts and reason and logic and the Bible prophecy. And sometimes we get it right. Sometimes we have to say this is our theory, and we'll have to revise and extend our remarks as more information comes out. But overall, we have a really good track record because we understand Hamas, we understand Hezbollah, we understand Islam, we understand that region of the world, we understand Donald Trump, we know what he wants, that Abraham Accord, we know what he's doing with the International Peace Board, which, by the way, I'm talking to people that are highly educated, financially affluent people. They've never even heard of this International Peace Board. They don't know. They have nothing. They know nothing about it. Decisions are being made in this country that affect every one of us, down to our gas prices, our grocery prices, and the potential of World War III and a draft being reinstituted. So many things going on in this country. And the average American, and even Americans that are very affluent, that you would think would be really tuned in because they have so much invested in their businesses and companies and organizations, they don't even know about the International Peace Board. So if you don't know about all these things, IMAC, International Peace Board, the Gaza Peace Plan by Jared Kushner and Witkoff, how can you come on here, some of them that do, and start throwing rocks at us when they're missing so much of the information? No, all they're interested in is tell me what I want to hear so I can feel good and be happy. Tickle my ears. Go ahead. That's what they want. I'm sorry, we don't do that here, which is why our numbers just keep going up, 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 up. Because they're like, I want to listen to a network that questions things. And that's what we've done tonight. And look at how much we put together by just going back and forth, right?
Exactly. And that's another part of it. I don't think I've ever been on anybody else's show that it was allowed for me and the host, being you, to not know something, ask or search it. Let's double check that reality that's provided. It's not a scripted. I'm like, just pull up this, spell it that way. You pull it up right away. All of that, I think, plays a huge role, Brandon, when it comes to your audience.
Well, I have always said to Logan, I don't know if I've told you this off air, I've always said to Logan, what makes our show so unique is that I'm the executive producer. I don't have an executive producer, an associate producer. I have a board operator in there, which is usually Logan. And then I have very good guests, but I don't have an executive producer. I don't have an associate producer. I do that myself because I want to. And I do not come to Brandon House Live with a teleprompter and everything has been pre-planned, pre-organized and timed out. We know what's going to happen and we're going to go to commercial break at this point. No. We're talking, we're learning, and we're producing it in real time with a computer that is plugged in with all these cords so I can pull up stuff and learn stuff and verify stuff and fact check stuff and bring breaking news in. I don't know. I don't watch or know of another show that does that. Do you, Logan? And you follow a lot of these media outlets. I don't know anyone that does what we do. Like this. Most of those guys are working on paper that's been printed out before they went to the desk. You probably do it. I see you raise your hand.
I was just saying I do.
But
my show is a lot shorter, but yeah, I'm normally just going on live and,
letting the news develop. And I'm not saying this to brag, folks. What I'm saying is this is a format that I do on purpose because I'm entertained by it. And if I'm not entertained, having fun and learning, I'm not going to sit here this many hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not. So the format is because it's fun and entertaining and it's investigative in real time. And I love it. It's like, what are we going to talk about today? What are we going to learn today? What are we going to discover today? I don't know. It'll be fun though. We'll certainly learn something. And it's cutting edge and entertaining. And the second reason we do it is because it does get us to places that a lot of shows will never end up. We get to conclusions. We get questions answered. We come to better, if not absolute answers, at least better theories to say, we have several working theories here that I think will explain what's really going on. Right?
Exactly. And from point of view of audience, at least something I have heard and received from our shared audience is it gives you that extra credibility. You're not afraid. You're not afraid. You're like, okay, I just heard this. Guys, can you confirm it? Or, hey, text Annie, see if she can confirm it. That is where credibility is built. You're not afraid to say, this is what I'm receiving. Let me confirm it. Or, hey, okay, this is not what's happening. Somebody reported something wrong. Those natural human interaction is where people automatically are trusting. When they watch somebody constantly saying the same note over and over, Tucker Carlson, for example, Over and over, same type of guest, same type of conversation, same sentences, same narrative. People walk away because they know this person is a scripted. I don't mean as a teleprompter, but in the brain, through whomever is paying the writing the check, they are scripted in the head. There is no trust. But you sit here, you have, I don't know, in last 10 years, almost 10 years, how many times you have texted me or Logan has called me, like, hey, can you jump on in 5 minutes? I'm like, sure. I don't even know why I'm jumping on. I just jump on. I love that, actually. I don't like it when somebody invite me on their show and then they send me this like 10 bullet points of this is the discussion. I'm like, oh, don't tell me what we're going to talk about ahead of time. But point is, that's where your credibility also comes to picture, Brennan. That's why when you have an event, you know, you have 1,000 showing up, filling up the room, sitting there waiting to hear. Because you have built that credibility that you don't say things, you don't do clickbait.
No, we don't do clickbait. We don't do clickbait. And we don't do clickbait. You
show up, you do what you can based on the information that's available during your show, and that's it. Mm-hmm. You come back tomorrow, do the same thing.
And we don't do clickbait because that's how you destroy your credibility fast.
Exactly.
Fast.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something else we're doing. What we're doing here, I don't know if people even realize this. We are laying down historical markers that goes into our archive that we can pull back up. And we have this massive computer data system that's, I keep telling you guys it's coming, but I keep pushing it off to be released because it's not got everything I want in it. And I keep telling the programmers what I want. No, add this. I has to be able to do this, this, and this. And so eventually when you see what we're building, you're going to understand why we do the kind of shows we do, because you guys are going to be able to ask our massive database questions and get answers like nobody else has, because nobody has conversations for the most part like this to even render such data and content. So there is a reason. Are you texting me or Logan or your
I was friend? Texting you.
Oh, you are texting me?
Yes, I was texting you, but that's all right. Go ahead.
You can text me.
Oh, can I? Okay.
Okay. Finish it up because I got to wrap this thing up. But there was something I was going to say. Wait a minute. If we have destroyed their Navy and their Air Force, and Trump said last week, just go in and take it to Europe. Take it. Take it. We've done the hard part. Wasn't that what he told them?
Absolutely. It's like, go grab it. It's for grab. What? We did the hard work.
You guys saw me. Where is my, here it is. My professional newsman. You know what these are, right? This is what the journalists use because the pages are so long. So you can take notes.
Yes, you can put a lot in there.
Yeah, you can. Okay. And I take notes with this sometimes. I don't know what you're wanting tonight, Dolly, but boy, you sure are needy. What did he say here? He said, just go to the straight and take it. The hard part has been done. That's what he said, Dolly, right there. I wrote it down. Look, that's what he said right there. Okay. So if that's the case, yeah, it's leather. You're not chewing it. I don't even know if it's real.
I was about to say, she wants to chew that. It's like, the notes are great, but let me chew it.
Yeah, I think that's leather. But no, you're not chewing it. But if the hard part has been done, just go in there and take it, then why don't we do that? Why are we cutting a deal? Why are we going to cease? Well, we know we've done a ceasefire, so apparently so the 60 days resets. But if we destroyed their Navy, destroyed their Air Force, it's that easy to take. That's what why I was telling Aaron today. When Aaron was pushing back, I'm like, you can be optimistic if you want. You can believe the hopium if you want, but I gave him a list of reasons why I'm not buying it. All right, so I got to let you go. That's our show. Annie Cyrus, liveuptofreedom.substack.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. All right, there you go. All right. She was texting me that she had to go. She has another interview. Can you believe it? But we got to go anyway. All right. That's our broadcast for tonight. That's a pretty good broadcast, don't you think, Logan? Yeah. What are you yawning in there? Logan's yawning. Could you yawn during this exciting show? It's late. I hear you. All right. Let's let's say one more thing. If you like this broadcast and you want to see more learning and questioning and theories and connecting dots and putting history together, then we have to have your support. We need you to go to worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Again, worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there. I'm trying to go there, but all of a sudden my computer is just completely frozen. Worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. Worldviewfoundation.com. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. Again, thank you to all of you for tuning in, supporting the broadcast, promoting the broadcast, and also for praying for us. We sure appreciate you. Don't forget about our national conference coming up October 23rd and 24th. I talked to the sound company today that we've been using for years. They're going to show up. I talked to my grand piano player. She's going to show up. So we're still working hard to get everything put together for a great time. worldviewtube.com/events. It's free, but you got to get a ticket. worldviewtube.com/events. May God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values,